Afternoon. Thank you all for being here. It's really great to look out and see so many familiar faces and to see so many of us in one place. I really want to thank the organizers for taking the initiative to call us together and plan this event. This is the first large-scale rally for trans rights in the history of Rhode Island, which is really hard to believe because Rhode Island has made a lot of strides in trans rights over the past 16 years. We've gathered at events of remembrance and resilience, but this is different. This is resistance. Resistance at a time when being out and vocal about our identities continues to be a radical act of self-acceptance. And resistance at a time when our community, our existence is under attack. And our right to access healthcare is becoming the new target of an old anti-marriage movement. I've been doing trans activism in Rhode Island for the past 9 years. And it's been even longer if we count the years before that when I was advocating for myself and friends just to find a doctor to treat us. In 2005, I was turned away from a doctor who refused to treat me. I had to go to Boston to find someone to take care of me. And I was able to get there because I had a job with good health insurance, paid time off, a car, and I was able to afford my copays to be able to go out of state and get the care that I needed. Many of my friends were not able to access the care that I needed. Later, I was able to take out a loan to have surgery because I was lucky enough to have a steady job and good credit. My ability to access care and affirm my identity came with a lot of privilege. And there are many people whom I cared about who needed that care as much as I did, but were not able to get it. And that's not okay. We all deserve to be able to access the healthcare that we need to live authentically. Fast forwarding a few years, I decided to go to grad school for social work and realized that I had a responsibility to take the opportunities I had been given and to begin to make things better for our community. I focused on training social workers, teachers, and medical providers. But let's be honest, those of you who know me know that I would talk about these things with anyone who would listen. I worked with other community leaders, mentors, and policymakers to add gender identity to our hate crimes laws in 2011. In 2012, we saw the DMV create a policy to make it easier to change the gender marker on our licenses and IDs. In 2014, the Department of Health ended the policy that required sterilization to change the gender marker on Rhode Island birth certificates. I need to say that again. Prior to 2014, Rhode Island required sterilization of trans people in order to change the gender marker on Rhode Island birth certificates. Then we set our sights on healthcare access and insurance. In 2015, Thunder Mist became the first community health center in the state to create a transgender health program. And one of the few programs in the country where trans health exists outside of a community health center that focuses on LGBT health as a whole. I am privileged to work at an organization that's committed to trans health, not because it's the new hip thing to do, but because it's part of our mission to improve the health of our communities and remove barriers to care. For the 5 years before our program started, the system was fragile. There were several crises in a row where one provider left the practice and the bottom fell out on trans care across the state. I'm proud to say that at Thunder Mist, we have 14 medical providers across our 3 sites, which are in Socket, Westport, and Wakefield. And I'm proud to say that we have brought options to the state where trans people will never again have to fear that the loss of one provider means the loss of access to good quality health care. Now about health insurance, in the spring of 2015, Mayor Lorza led the way by making Providence the first municipal government in the state to have trans-inclusive insurance. And in October of 2015, Rhode Island became one of a dozen states to remove trans exclusions in health insurance for both Medicaid and commercial plans. This was followed shortly after by coverage for state employees with an executive order from Governor Raimondo. That's right, Rhode Islanders, many of whom still don't know this, is that we have coverage through insurance, through Medicaid, through the health exchange, and most employers, including state workers and employees for the city of Providence, are finally able to access trans-inclusive health insurance. And studies have shown that the cost of this care is minimal. It's far from a burden. Accessing the trans-affirming healthcare decreases healthcare costs in the long term because providing gender-affirming healthcare improves quality of life, decreases risk of depression, and other adverse health effects. Also, people receiving trans-affirming healthcare are more likely to receive regular preventative care and address other ongoing health needs. Now, I realize this work is not finished. There are still some types of insurance policies that don't have to follow the rules, and just because we have coverage doesn't mean things are perfect. There are few local surgeons, and travel costs are not covered. Many plans still refuse to cover necessary treatments, like electrolysis. It can also still be a challenge to find an affirming, knowledgeable medical provider, particularly in emergency settings, treatment facilities, and specialty offices. This is where all of you come in. The next time you go to a doctor's office and see a form that only asks for 2 genders, I want you to ask why. I want you to cross it out and write a different answer. I want you to ask them how they affirm their transgender patients and how they make sure that they call people by their right names and pronouns. I want you to go look at your insurance policies. Does your policy cover trans-affirming healthcare? Is yours a company that needs to opt in for affirming coverage? If so, challenge your company and ask why trans people are not covered. And I'm speaking to cisgender people. Don't wait until you have a trans coworker who's going to do this work themselves. Do it for them to create a place for them to come and be able to find employment in your company. Because doing this will make it more likely that trans people will come to your workplace. There are also many municipal governments in the state that still do not have coverage. Is your town one of them? And if it is, go find out why. Challenge and question these policies and practices to make space for trans people so that when a trans person goes to that office, they don't have to. This is your role as an ally. Speak up and make space for us. I want to thank you all for showing up for trans rights and for allowing me to speak today. And again, I want to thank the organizers who made this event happen. Thank you.